officers accountable before Amir. And when we, as families, were fighting for legislation, the no-knock warrants, 6 months ago, while there was a legislative session going on, had they passed that no-knock warrant, Amir would be alive right now. Our families have pleaded, our families have begged for the legislators, the Senate, Paul Gazelka, Warren Limmer, to hold these officers accountable and pass police accountability bills. And they refused to do so in the last session, and that's why we have another body, a young man he had a license to carry and he didn't deserve to get murdered in his sleep. How many more bodies? What else can you take from our families? So here again, we stand here with another body, but I want the legislators to know, I want the governor to know, I want everybody to know that had a chance to make changes before Amir. I want all of you to know that the blood is on all of your hands. I will now call forward Attorney Ben Crump that has come to fight for yet another family here in the state of Minnesota. Thank you.
I'm Attorney Ben Crump, along with Minnesota's own Attorney Jeff Storms and Attorney Tony Ramanucci. We have the honor of representing the family of Amir Locke, his mother, Karen Wells, and his father, Andre Locke. We also have present with us his older brother, Andre Locke Jr., and a host of uncles and aunts and cousins also assembled with Tashira and these other families who are brokenhearted. We even have the family member of Emmett Till present with us today. What is so heartbreaking, and while we're here at the great capital of the state of Minnesota, is because obviously when we were making proclamations over in the Twin City of Minneapolis, even though we thought we were being heard, Tashira, obviously our proclamations were ringing hollow when we called for better policing, more restraint, more constitutional protections against excessive use of force. Apparently, it rang hollow. And so now we're here in this Capitol building with the echoes from each word that we articulate, that it will not remain hollow, that we will be heard. When you think about the fact when we were here, Attorney Storms, at the last trial of one of the police officers who killed George Floyd, it's hard to believe that there was a young black man killed unjustly during that trial named Dante Wright by Officer Kim Potter. And so you just simply can't believe during the trial of police officers who killed George Floyd that we're going to have another black man killed unjustly in the Twin City area. I mean, what do we have to do to say stop killing us, especially while we're going through the trial of the killers of George Floyd, which you all may remember was supposed to be the turning point. You remember that? George Floyd, the 9 minutes and 29 seconds was supposed to be the turning point. I think about the fact that you have Karen and Andre coming here to the Capitol demanding that legislation be passed to abolish no-knock warrants in the state of Minnesota. You know, before, when the leaders were offering the plea to say, let's abolish no-knock warrants, they were offering Breonna Taylor and her blood. But today, Karen and Andre are offering the blood of Amir Locke on this legislation to say no more no-knock warrants. The saddest part of it all is we thought you could take the word of the Minneapolis city officials when they said there was a ban on no-knock warrants. But we just found out within the last hour, not only was that a terrible joke played on us, that they insisted on a no-knock warrant and they insisted on nighttime service. Can y'all imagine nighttime service, which we know is the most dangerous time to serve a no-knock warrant? The fact that it is foreseeable that people are going to be asleep and you're going to break into their house unannounced. Amir Locke didn't have a chance. He did not have a chance. And so we come here to demand that Minnesota issue a ban on no-knock warrants, but the blood of Amir Locke, the blood of Breonna Taylor should hopefully call for a ban on no-knock warrants all over the country, President Biden. We need you to issue a federal decree to abolish no-knock warrants being executed by any federal official in the name of Amir Locke, in the name of Breonna Taylor. President Biden started at the top, and the states should follow. And so we think about the fact that this video, this documentary of the last seconds of Amir Locke's life on this earth is very reminiscent of the history of policing in America. When you had the slave patrol who can just bust in the homes of black people and there was an assumption that we were guilty until proven innocent, that you had the right to take us dead or alive. Here we are hundreds of years later, and we see that video and we think back to the history of policing in America. And so when Attorney Storms and Attorney Ramanucci and I had the opportunity to present to the City Council of Minneapolis, the one thing that was on my mind as an African American, not just as a civil rights attorney, but as an African American, was the fact that we have two systems of policing in America, one for white America and another for black America, that make African Americans cringe every time we have an interaction with the police, because we have too many names that we know just from interactions end up with deadly consequences, whether it's Philando Castile, whether it's Jamar Clark, whether it's Winston Smith, whether it's George Floyd, whether it's Dante Wright, whether it's Breonna Taylor. The list goes on and on and on. And now we add Amir Locke name to that list. And we say, how many more before we change the racist, discriminatory policies like no-knock warrants that were held over from the war on drugs, that were held over from the slave patrol? How many more? You see, it was more than just the police bullets that killed Amir Locke, Mayor Fry. It was a failed policy that we thought was abolished with these no-knock warrants. It's Black History Month. And so we should learn from recent history. With Breonna Taylor, after she was executed, her body mutilated with 9 bullets while she was practically naked in her home after they executed these no-knock warrants. So, Attorney Storms, then we looked back and we said, well, how are these no-knock warrants being executed and who are they being executed against? And Tashira, it was no surprise that when they studied no-knock warrants in Louisville, Kentucky 2 years prior, that they found 82% of the time that the no-knock warrants were executed against Black people. They weren't busting in the homes of our white brothers and sisters in the wee hours of the morning at nighttime service. No, they were doing this to Black people's homes. And they found that 68% of the time that they found nothing. And so can you imagine all the trauma of those families of color after their homes were busted into by the very people who were supposed to protect and serve them? The psychological effect it has on the children. I wonder how many no-knock warrants have been served in Minneapolis in the last 2 years, and who those no-knock warrants were executed against. I wouldn't be surprised if most of them were executed against people who look like Amir Locke. Just the fact that they had open season to go to multiple apartments to violate the constitutional rights of Black people. And we have to keep saying it because we got to make sure that people realize that this is not happening in the suburbs. This isn't happening where white people live. This is happening to Black people. They're violating our constitutional rights on a daily basis, on a continuous basis, on a systematic basis. Minneapolis, you're better than that. Show us you're better than that. As Karen said, the legacy of Amir Locke, her baby boy, will be that this has to be the last time you bust into Black people's homes and shoot and kill us unjustly. Amir wasn't the target of that search warrant. Amir was a law-abiding young man who was a licensed gun permit owner who had every right to the Second Amendment and the Fourth Amendment. But apparently in Minneapolis, they don't think Black people have a right to either. And so we offer his blood on this legislation to once and for all abolish no-knock warrants in the state of Minnesota. Now you're going to hear from my most able co-counsel, Minnesota's own Jeff Storms, and then you're going to hear from the father of Amir Locke why they feel they had to be here today with these other families in the Capitol to ask for this ban on no knock warrants to become law. And then you will hear from his broken-hearted mother, Karen. And then you'll hear from some of the other families, and then we will take your questions. And we intentionally want to take questions at the end because we want you to hear that it's not just Amir's family brokenhearted, but it's so many other black families who are brokenhearted too, who have been swept under the rug. Well, today, we're not going to let Minnesota sweep any black life under the rug because all of these black lives matter. Sweep under the rug, not. We're going to get justice for Amir Locke. We have Attorney Jeff Storms, a great, great civil rights lawyer here in Minnesota.
Attorney Crump, as we stand here once again next to a beautiful, grieving family, I'm struck by where we're standing, because how is it we've managed to make buildings that look like this for hundreds of years, but we can't pass laws that stop an innocent black man from being executed in his sleep? Surely we have that ability in this country. And the reason it hasn't happened, and some of our guiding principles that we've seen here in Minneapolis and some of our other local governments, are these. One, we don't learn. The city of Minneapolis refuses to learn. There was a man who died in 2010 named David Smith, who was killed in almost an identical fashion to George Floyd. Officers handcuffed him behind his back and put weight on his back, kneeled on his back until he asphyxiated. The city of Minneapolis was supposed to provide training to make sure no one ever died the way David Smith died again. And then George Floyd happened, showing us that Minneapolis does not learn. The city of Minneapolis, like the rest of the world, knew about the dangers of no-knock warrants from the killing of Breonna Taylor. And not only Breonna Taylor, but we've had our own no-knock examples here in Minnesota as well. There was a case involving a woman named Rakia Russell, where they wrongly executed a no-knock warrant and gave her horrific burns when they threw a flashbang grenade where she was. So the city of Minneapolis has been on notice about its no-knock policy. And then we get to the second principle. The city continues to lie to us. They tell us we banned no-knock warrants. No, you didn't. They tell us Amir Locke was a suspect. No, he wasn't.
Tell it, Jeff.
They do the same playbook over and over again, and it's to discredit and attempt to desensitize all of us to their repetitive mistakes that typically result in the death of a young black man. Now, one of the other guiding principles that we've seen from Minneapolis and elsewhere is a lack of transparency. And that strikes home here. We have with us Cadale Smith, the brother of Winston Smith, who died as the result of being killed as part of a U.S. Marshal Task Force. Now, when we talk about a lack of transparency there, we talk about no body cameras. And now, take 1 second and think about this. Imagine if there were no cameras on the group of men that just executed Amir Locke.
Yeah. What would the narrative?
How would we ever be able to stand here and fight the way for Amir Locke with the support of the country that we have right now? And it would be very difficult, which is why we've had to force entities in this country to wear body cameras. And what did we see in that body camera? I'll tell you what we saw in the camera when Amir Locke was executed. We saw a young man who executed better trigger discipline and gun usage than the people we pay and give the power and authority to arrest and kill our citizens if necessary. How is that young man, Amir Locke, better trained with a firearm than the officer that killed him? And I challenge all of you, watch the video. There's been some savvy people out there who have stopped and freeze-framed it, and you'll see it is textbook. Google trigger discipline. Pick up an image, and you're going to see Amir Locke's virtually replica of Amir Locke's hand. You'll see his fingers pointing down on the barrel, away from the trigger, and you'll see his gun pointed away because Amir Locke did not know if he needed to use his firearm because the young man wasn't even given an opportunity to open his eyes and wake up. Yet that young man, who was rushed upon by armed intruders, had the wherewithal and the human decency to not pull that trigger, to not even put the finger on that trigger. So as we stand before you today, we need to have our own Bill of Rights. And that Bill of Rights includes no-knock warrants, but bigger than that, learn from your mistakes, cities. Stop lying to us and be transparent. And remember that we're all humans. We're all supposed to be in this together. And every time the city pulls out its own playbook, where it attempts to dehumanize or detract from why a young person got killed in this country, that cheapens the bond that we all have, and it builds the distrust that you've all seen. So now the initial step is ban no-knock warrants everywhere. It's not safe on either side of the door. It doesn't help law enforcement, and it particularly does not help our communities of color. But bigger than that, stop lying to us.
Yeah. Well said, Attorney Storms. You know, if the no-knock bans would have been enforced, let's be clear, Amir Locke would still be here. If the no-knock bans were enforced, let's be clear, Amir Locke would still be here. If the no-knock ban was enforced, let's be clear, Amir Locke would still be here. Let's say it so they can hear some Minneapolis. If the no-knock ban were... Let's say it all together. If the no-knock bans were enforced, let's be clear, Amir Locke will still be here. We need the mayor to hear us. If the no-knock bans were enforced, let's be clear, Amir Locke will still be here. Let's make sure the governor understands it. If the no-knock bans were enforced, let's be clear, Amir Locke will still be here. Let's make sure President Biden hears us. If the no-knock bans were enforced, let's be clear, Amir Locke will still be here. Thank you all. Thank you all. Because Amir's mother and father got something to say, and we just want to get your attention before they addressed you. First, you're going to hear from his father. A lot of you all in the Twin Cities know him as Buddy McClain. Buddy got something to say. So you all please give your attention first to his father, Amir Locke Sr., and then to his mother, his broken-hearted mother, who is defiant in demanding justice for her child, her baby boy, and that is Karen Wells. Andre and Karen will now address you.
Thank you, Mr. Crump. Mr. Storms, Mr. Manucci, if I said that correctly. Ramanucci. I stand here today. I'm Amir Locke Sr., Amir's father. As a proud father, I stand here. I'll state the facts. The blood is on the legislation.
Amen.
That's the facts. The truth needs no support. We all saw what we saw. I'm going to tell you this now. We demand that they pass the law for no-knock warrants in the name of our son, Amir. We demand justice, and we demand that this is done properly, and not tomorrow, not later on in 2 years. We demand that it's done immediately.
Immediately.
Immediately. I stand here as a representation of my family, a representation of my son. I'm going to speak from my point of view. Amir was our son, and we loved our son.
Amen.
And we taught our son properly. We taught our son respect. Our son died by the hands of Minneapolis police, a trigger-happy Minneapolis police officer. It was something about that tape, since we're talking about the tape. And I've said before that I wanted people to close their eyes in America and envision the tape, because we can all see it. I've been dreaming about it since it happened.
My Lord.
I keep seeing it over and over. It keeps recurring. And as I picture this and I continue to see it, there's other things that come out. I noticed when that officer kicked the couch, and when he kicked it the first time, and Amir didn't move, but he kicked it the second time, and the couch almost turned over. Oh my goodness. Not only did I see that or recognize that, but I also recognized the other officer who slapped that officer's gun down. He slapped the gun down. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Bad kill. Bad kill.
My Lord.
Bad kill.
Bad kill.
Bad kill. He slapped, listen to him, I'm going to say it again. That officer on his right slapped the gun down.
Wow.
Hey, if Amir was, I'll say this, Amir didn't have the intent, the opportunity, nor the ability to hurt those officers. If Amir was a threat, if he was an imminent threat, the other officers would have engaged.
Everybody, that's a good
Everybody
point.
would have engaged.
Yeah.
When that officer slapped that gun down, they knew they messed up. They knew they messed up.
Wow. Wow.
It's breathtaking. It takes your breath away. Again, when I've told family to close their eyes and picture that film, you see it, you picture the footage. Now imagine if Amir was white. No one knew what was up under the blankets.
Wow.
It's unfair. It's unjust. It's not okay. Let the truth, I'll say it again, the truth needs no support. We all saw it. What's wrong with just accountability? What's wrong with just with transparency? What's wrong with just saying, we messed up? We messed up this time. We took an innocent life of a law-abiding citizen who had the right to carry, who did everything right. Zero criminal history. Why is it that we always have to humanize our children?
Man.
Why is it that we have to humanize our children to white America?
Tell them, buddy.
People want to make this a white and black thing. We're not racist, but they did. They made it a white and black thing. So they executed our son, and they went about it the wrong way. We are demanding justice. We're demanding that a bill is passed for the no-knock warrants in the name of Amir Locke, so that we can remember all of those that lost their lives. And that it doesn't ever happen again to any family, to low white class families, who also is not talked about. This affects them too. Black and brown and poor white folks. This affects them just as well as it affects us. You have to excuse me. I have a lot of sorrow that I'm dealing with, because I know that could have been done differently. We can point out so many different things, but the facts are the facts.
Amen.
It doesn't get any better it doesn't get any clearer than what the facts are. We can try to twist this any kind of way y'all want to. Guess what? It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
How shame of you to try to pull the odds over the American people.
Yeah.
We live in a day and age of social media. Whatever was gonna be out there would have already been out there. Stop talking crazy about my son. I'm sorry, that other side almost came out. No.
You good.
No. So, I apologize.
No, you said it. You said it. You good.
But anyhow, we have to go about this the right way. And I'm absolutely thankful for all of the support. I'm absolutely thankful
Amen.
for Mr. Crump and the team.
We
Thank
with
you.
buddy.
Thank you.
We with you, buddy. Well said, brother. Love you, man. Well said, buddy. Thank you. And now we have Karen. Stay here, buddy.
I can't believe that I'm standing here today speaking about my second born, and his name is a hashtag. I gave birth to Amir Locke in the Twin Cities, born and raised. And on 2/2/22, instead of y'all saying y'all slogan here is Minnesota nice, y'all need to change it to Minnesota lies. I am demanding that President Biden and everybody else, from the ground up to the top, ban no-knock warrants across the United States of America in the name of Amir Locke.
Yeah.
I'm demanding also that they pass a law here in Minnesota, and Amir no-knock warrant lock as well. Right now, I'm all over the place.
Yes.
It is a roller coaster. It is a dream. I am a mother. His older brother is hurting. They're 2 years apart. They were the best friends. Best friends. Imagine my older son doesn't have his best friend anymore. Imagine that I can't FaceTime with my son, but can that officer still FaceTime with his? Can that chief of police still FaceTime with theirs? Can Mayor Fry still FaceTime with theirs? All I have is memories, a voicemail, and pictures. And that still shot of my baby boy still with the covers over his head, doing the right thing, having his weapon, licensed weapon at that, face down, and still not knowing who the hell is surrounding him. This is not fair. It is unacceptable. I should not have to bury a 22-year-old child. He should be getting ready to bury us in the next 20 to 30 years.
Wow.
I am going to be the voice of all the mothers in the Twin Cities who did not have a voice, who also went through these no-knock warrants, and the media and nobody reported about it. So guess what? Y'all didn't know who was underneath them covers, but y'all know now. His name was Amir Locke. He loved the youth, wanted to save the youth, and we gonna save the rest of the youth. Y'all will not enter another apartment complex of a person of color, and y'all knew when y'all was going there, there was people of color that lived there. So y'all did y'all research, but you didn't know who was up underneath them sheets. I gave birth to him 11/11/99. He dies 2/2/22. My son was 22. Let's be real. This is higher than all of us. But y'all realize that his name was Amir, and we gave birth to a prince. So y'all messed up royally. Y'all messed up. Y'all messed up. Y'all messed up. And because of who I am, I'm going to go through sadness, hurt, anger, everything, because I have the right to. When I mourn, I am going to mourn on my time, not America's time. If you think I'm angry, I have every right to be angry. Why don't all y'all right now cover your eyes instead of take the mask off your mouth and put it over your eyes? And visualize and listen to the gunshots that went into my son. I can't even watch. I had to walk out. I can't even watch the footage of my baby slumped over on the couch where he was sleeping at, and he should have still been asleep.
Yes.
He should still be asleep right now if he wants to. It takes everything in our power to wake our son up. We were there for him, taking him to school, dropping him off at daycare. Y'all don't understand how many times I had to fight with Amir, as well as his brother, to get up. I got to get to work. We're going to be late for school. We're going to be late for the daycare. You can't just yell at Amir. You have to push on Amir. Amir was with me in Dallas, Texas. The whole time when I'm leaving to go for work or wherever he's going, I have to, Amir, I'm getting ready to go to work. He's sound asleep with the covers over his face. He's sound asleep. I have to literally push my baby boy and tell him, Amir, I'm about to leave. Have a good day. I love you and I love you too. And where y'all messed up is y'all took that. Y'all stole him from all his goals and his dreams and what he was going to become. Amir was not a man yet. He was only 22, but he'll never become a man. He talked about having children. Guess what? Mr. Trigger Happy, a police officer from the MPD, Mr. I want to kick the couch. Y'all stole that from me. Am I angry? Yes, I am. Am I going to continue to be the voice for Amir? Yes, I am. Is his brother going to become the voice of the helping the youth because he's 24? Yes, he will. Will he be the voice of all the fathers that were cheated and their sons taken away? Yes, he will. So at the end of the day, y'all gonna learn who my baby boy was. Believe that.
In essence, Pastor Amir Locke law now.
Yes.
Pastor Amir Locke law now. 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 Thank you for bearing your heart, Karen and Andre. His blood is on this legislation.
Yes, it is.
Tashira.
Unfortunately, we have a group of families, and it's only a small portion of the heinous evil that the people in the political seats and the people all around this state has inflicted upon our communities and our families. I will now call forward the families. If you guys can stand on the side. Families, if you can keep, just because we're here to support Amir's family, so please just keep your comments brief. We want to just acknowledge the families that are here to stand in solidarity with Amir's family. I want to first tell Michelle Gross and Nakima Levy-Armstrong, thank you for fighting to bring forth the footage for Amir's family, because they would have covered it up like they've done all the rest of our families. They would have covered up the murders, and they didn't get a chance to do that for Amir, and they didn't get a chance to do that for Dante Wright. And with George Floyd, it went Facebook Live, so they couldn't do it. But these are the families that they were able to sweep under the rug. This place needs to be under federal investigation because it's the BCA, it's the police departments, it's all of them involved in these murders. We will now call forward the mother of Cordell Handy, Kim Handy Jones.
We will take your questions at the end. We want to pay respect to the families to make brief remarks as well.
Good afternoon. I'm the mother of Cordell Quinn Handy. My name is Kimberly Handy Jones. A lot of you know me here in the Twin Cities. This is not new to me. It's true to me. I lost my son March 15, 2017. This is emotional. But today, I woke up out of my black sleep, which was a fortune that was denied to Amir Locke, to Cordell Handy, to Jamar Clark, to Emmett Till, and to so many other stolen lives. And I heard Ben say there's two types of systems, a white one and a black one. And then there's the reaction, a right and a wrong. Why, when black children are gunned down and executed, it's wrong. It's wrong. Why are we seeing this stuff in real lifetime? And it's not enough. White America, wake up. Wake up. The mom said, take the mask out your mouth, off your mouth, and put it around your eyes and envision it. Well, I'm telling you, take the cotton out your ears and stick it in your mouth. Black people are talking to you. Black people are tired of their children being executed. I like Karen, who will never see her son's full potential, and so many others like us. You robbed us. You robbed us of being able to see grandchildren. You robbed us of generations. And then you go home with those same murderous hands that you shot and executed our kids with, and hug your kids and look at them with loving eyes and ours with hatred. Wow. When Officer Hanneman appealed to Amir, his actions were aggressive. He came in a hostile manner. And Jeff Storm said it right. His techniques, Amir's techniques of handling the gun was on point. And where did he go wrong? Did he go wrong because his mother and father raised him properly and said, don't break the law. If you get a gun, get your license. Not only to have a gun, but to conceal and carry a gun. Where did he go wrong? He didn't go wrong. And not only is it blood on the legislature, it's blood at your door. All our children's blood spill is at your door. And President Biden, if you can't do right by black, brown, and indigenous people, I just want to tell you, Biden. That's what we have to say to you. Karen, Andre, keep your eye on the prize. God loves you, so do I.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. We will now call forward the sister of Jamar Clark, Tiffany Burns. Thank you.
Jamar Clark was 24 years old when he was executed by Minneapolis police. He was handcuffed, not armed, handcuffed and shot in the head, execution style. And again, you know, you think about the generational curse that they put on us. My brother did not get to have kids. He did not have any kids, and he don't have that chance to have any kids. My heart go out to woo. Y'all, this is like woo.
It's okay.
It just takes me back to November 15, 2015. It was like watching Jamar all over again on that video. And I couldn't even watch it. I couldn't even watch the whole thing. But again, Minnesota covered up these murders. They covered up my brother's murder. My brother was pursuing a lawsuit against MPD, and they killed him for it. And I told my brother, bro, just don't, just please, 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 don't give him any reason to do anything to you. And he did not do that. He was a target. They targeted my brother because he had that lawsuit against them, and they shot him execution style. And they covered his murder up the same way they covered up a lot of these murders. And I just pray for the Locke family, and I pray for all of our families that we get through this and we continue to fight and not give up.
Thank you, Tiffany. We will now call forward the brother of Winston Smith, Keydale Smith. Thank you.
My name is Keydale Smith. Winston Smith was my brother who was killed 7 months ago, June 3rd, by the U.S. Marshals. Almost exactly the same way how they killed Amir Locke. And just like the sister just said, man, it's like watching it all over again. And what's crazy is, before my brother was killed, I had a dream that something was going on with him. This is the second time I had a dream. I won't get into details, but I had a dream that somebody else was about to be killed, except this time it was the form of my brother. When I woke up at 5 in the morning, 2 hours later, I heard that Amir Locke has been shot dead. And after I seen that video, it shows me how, just evil and despicable and disrespectful that people could be. I had a conversation with a guy who said that Amir Locke was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was at his house sleeping. He was at his cousin's house, at his cousin's house sleeping on the couch. And y'all shot him dead. My brother was having dinner with his girlfriend, went to his car in his own comfortability, and you shot him dead. How is this the wrong place at the wrong time? So yeah, watching this is actually very personal to me. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because, it was brought out, man. It's I've seen evidence, because I've been doing my research after this happened. I've seen that police will make up a BS story if they believe that they're not going to be caught. Uh-huh. Just imagine if his was off camera, how they would make up a bullshit story because they didn't think that he was going to be caught. Yeah. Man, I got one last thing to say, man. It rages me that somebody got to be killed every time we trying to get a law change.
Tell me that.
When Dante Wright was killed, it put in form the no-knock warrants, but you had to kill just one more person before now maybe possibly to change. But when George Floyd was killed, during that time in 2020, shortly after, the marshals were supposed to have body cameras, but you just had to kill one more person before you decided to implement that, and that was Winston Smith. Who else got to be killed before another law is passed?
Man, deep.
It's like, Minnesota, y'all got to get it together, man.
And I will say this because it's so profound, and Attorney Storms know. I was here in Minneapolis having breakfast with Botham Jean's sister. And Winston Stott was with his girlfriend having breakfast, actually came up to me. We took pictures. He posted it on social media. And 3 days later, he was killed by the federal marshals. That's how real this thing is. It could be any of us.
I will now call forward the mother of Marcos Paramo, who was 14 years old, just killed with the Maplewood police involved and the sheriffs here involved in Minnesota. Marcos Paramos, which is the best friend of my son who had his father killed by St. Paul police. Tanya Giles, thank you.
First, I want to give the Locke family my condolences. I'm so sorry. This is the most painful thing that any human can endure. For one, your child is gone. You'll never get to see him again. Secondly, it's by the hands of law enforcement who are supposed to protect and serve our families and our people in our community. We need to do something, and we need to do it soon. You know, after the George Floyd murder, you would think that the state of Minnesota would make drastic changes ASAP. Our state was almost demolished because of it. And still we stand here today, and it seems like the murders are getting more and more frequent, not further and further apart. This is really hard for me. The police tried to lie about my son's the car accident that my son was killed in. The Ramsey County Sheriff's Office with Maplewood and St. Paul and North St. Paul chased the vehicle my son and 6 other teens were in. They threw stop sticks, which led the car to go out of control. I believe I wasn't there, but I'm assuming I was told by the Maplewood police chief that there was stop sticks involved. So they said on the news that they lost sight of the vehicle 5 blocks before it crashed. There was one human person that had a Ring camera on their front door. And caught that the police car was seconds behind them. And they leaked it. So now they can't lie. Hadn't that video been leaked, it still would be today that, you know, hey, the car lost control on its own. So I just want to know that I'm here. I feel your pain. It touched me when you said something about your son being best friends with his younger brother. I have a 12-year-old and Marcos just turned 14, and they were best friends and spent every second of every day of their lives on this earth together. They were inseparable, and now my son don't know who he is without his big brother, and it hurts so bad. So I'm done. Thank you for listening.
We will now have the cousin of Emmett Till, Deborah Watts.
Thank you. I stand here today as a family friend of Karen and Andre, little buddy, and Linda. Roots deep. But this is calling for some deep action that requires us to connect the past to the present and the future.
Amen.
The slave patrols, those lynch mobs that came into the homes are still happening today. Just put on a different lens. The killing has got to stop. The unprotected nature of black and brown bodies has got to stop. So I just bring you a warning.
Say that. Say that.
That we're tired.
Yes, ma'am.
Enough is enough. Legislation cannot change the heart, but we will fight on behalf of Amir Locke, on behalf of all of the other mothers, fathers, cousins, sisters, and brothers that are shedding tears, but that will be putting their boots on to make change. So I just want to thank Tashira Garraway for establishing families, supporting families against police violence, because Tashira and I have connected from the racially motivated murders that occurred in our past to the continuation and the through line that's continuing today. Don't forget that. You're smart people, and Minnesota's smart as well. Amir Locke, in his name, please, everyone, join in the chant that the Attorney Crump has issued. It's also a warning, because that law is going to pass. Yeah. And it could even protect your loved ones too. So thank you very much. I love you. But standing here in the spirit of Mamie Till Mobley, who had her boots on, who's going to join you, Karen. Amen. Who's going to join you in spirit. I stand here also with the case of Emmett Till still not solved.
Come on now.
But we're pushing for legislation as well, and I will be pushing for legislation along with this family. Put your boots on with us and join us and pass the, what is it called again?
Amir Locke Law.
Pass the Amir Locke Law. One other thing I want to do is know that we are locked, as the black mothers did here just about a week or so ago. We are locked together to pass this, and also in reference of your son. And I love you all. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I want to first thank Attorney Ben Crump as well as Jeff Storms and the families for allowing our families to be here to stand with them today. We will now call up Attorney Ben Crump and Jeff Storms and the family of the mother and father of Amir Locke for the Q&A. Any questions?
Yes.
House TFL lawmakers talked about passing a no-knock warrant bill that would ban them all except in the most extreme circumstances when a civilian's life is imminently in danger. Is that enough, or do you want all no-knock warrants banned?
Well, the fact that we can't trust them to stick to their word, we simply say ban them all. Yes. Let the Constitution apply to black people as well. The Fourth Amendment apply to black people as well. Because we see when we leave them to their own devices, they come up with all kind of reasons to still execute no-knock warrants against black people in America.
All.
Ban them all.
Ban them all.
It's not too much to say about that. Like Mr. Crump said, we can't trust them to keep their word. Just ban them all.
The system failed my son, and the system got my son executed. So ban it across America.
Yes.
Completely.
Completely.
Pass the Amir Locke Law immediately.
Immediately.
Any more questions? Yeah, I talked to the chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus and several members of the Congressional Black Caucus after Amir was killed to push President Biden and also to have federal legislation to ban no-knock warrants by federal officers. That's the power they have to do. But Minnesota also has power in its state to do the same. And obviously, those Congressional Black Caucus members' hearts break for Karen and Andre, just like they broke for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. However, we were not able to convince the Senate to pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act because we already had, as part of that legislation, a ban on no-knock warrants. And it's like Mr. Smith said, how many people got to die to get a law passed? And so we believe that President Biden, his press secretary talked about it already, that he's considering it. Well, we want him to do more than consider it. We want him to act immediately before another no-knock warrant is executed against an African-American family. And we are at the next state saying, Breonna Taylor, Amir Locke, and then another one. We say no, no more.
No more.
I defer to my co-counsel, Minnesota's own Jeff Stones, but I will say this. If they were being transparent, they would have told these parents at the very beginning that we had this no-knock warrant and we insisted on it, that it be served at nighttime. That's the most dangerous no-knock warrant you could do.
That's right.
It's already bad enough you're going to bust in my house, but you're going to bust in my house while I'm asleep. That's what they issued. That's what they insisted upon. And so we don't believe they were transparent at the very beginning. And that's why attorney activist Nakima Levy was so outraged, because she believed that they were going to do better. Attorney Storms?
Yeah, so initially the data is Minneapolis's, right? And Minneapolis showed the family the bare minimum, right? They showed seconds worth of video and no other information was going to be provided at the time. What ended up being so insidious about that is, as we know from that press release, they repeatedly referred to Amir as a suspect, and it took a significant period of time before they admitted that that was a lie. So there was very little transparency up front. With respect to the state agencies like the BCA, it is typically a little later in the process before we start to get that information. And those are discussions we'll have that typically run through the prosecution team reviewing it that we're not in a position to comment on just yet.
They did. They both, as well as both of the United States senators, reached out. Talk a little louder, please. So, if I understand your question, you're asking, would they come up with, I'm sorry? Well, let's say this. Let's say this. We have to try. We can't just say there's no hope, because Amir Locke life is worth the fight.
Yes.
George Floyd's life is worth the fight. Winston Smith's life is worth the fight. Jamar Clark's life is worth the fight. Dante Wright's life is worth the fight.
Philando Castile.
Philando Castile's life is worth it. And I'm just trying to talk about people in the Twin Lakes area. I ain't even talking about nationwide. Justin Tiger's life is worth the fight. So, brother, what we're saying is we rather strike a match than to curse the darkness. Any other questions? Yes, no, sir.
Yes.
Well, I will say this, and maybe Attorney Storms may want to chime in, and I know Amir's parents have talked about just how serious he took being a gun owner, how he researched the matter, how he investigated what type of gun he was going to have. I mean, this was a young man who was being responsible. But, you know, I have to be honest, when things happen, I had to take my foot out my mouth because I was one of the most vocal advocates in saying that when Philando Castile was killed and he was a licensed gun owner, where were all the NRA gun lobby caucuses and advocates? I mean, why weren't they speaking up for that American to have his rights to the Second Amendment and defend himself? And they were like crickets. And then Corey Jones in Palm Beach, Florida, another young black man who was killed by an undercover police officer while his car was broke down on the side of I-95. And no gun lobby, no gun activists came out for him. If it were not for the tow truck company recording the conversation and what happened, that cop would have got away with murdering a black man and lying about it. And so that's why I give a lot of acknowledgement to the Minnesota Gun Caucus for having the conviction to say what is the truth, that Amir Locke did what any other reasonable, law-abiding, licensed gun permit owner would have done if they came into your home unannounced. You would grab your weapon and try to protect your family and protect his castle, because the castle doctrine that we all learn about in law school applies to black people too. Yes. And so maybe this is a new precedent where we can have the NRA and the gun lobby stand with us and say that black people too have a right to the Second Amendment, and black people too have a right to defend their homes when the police violate the Fourth Amendment. We'll see if it happens, but this is an opportunity for a new precedent in society.
Well, the one thing I would add is, the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, the executive who, one of the executives who came forward has also gotten a lot of hate in response to coming out in this fashion. And we haven't heard any other groups come out. So frankly, at this point, I'm discouraged. That group should get a ton of credit, but they should all be standing up right now. I have fielded so many phone calls from gun owners who said, that would have been me. I go to bed, and listen, not all of us carry guns, right? So not all of us know what we do with our guns when we go to sleep at night. I know a number of gun owners who called me and said, I sleep with my gun right next to my bed. Had I been jarred awake, I would have grabbed it. My gun would have been loaded, because that's the only way it can be effective in that situation. And had Amir Locke thought that he needed to defend himself, that would have been the only way for him to do it. But once again, he exercised discretion. And where are these groups not coming forward to talk about how he did everything impeccably right? with that discretion. I mean, we just can't say enough. If the Second Amendment doesn't apply to everyone, the NRA and everyone else should just tell us that.
Yeah. And so that's a great point, Jeff. The Minnesota Gun Caucus came forward. We're still waiting for the NRA to come forward. Yes, ma'am.
I would start first. What I would like to say to those protesters, I ask everyone that we can do this in peace. I asked for 22 days of peace. Now I'm going to ask for 44 days of peace. Because, first off, we truly appreciate everyone being on the grounds and letting their voices be heard, because Amir can't let his voice be heard. And we just ask that they do it accordingly, and that they do it with wisdom, with knowledge, and with understanding that if it's not done the right way, don't participate.
I just want to say, because my son can't be here and speak, he's speaking from the grave right now on the other side. He would be happy with, especially like a lot of the youth that are coming out, doing protests for him in his name. And on behalf of my son, I say I'm appreciative and I love everybody's support and their prayers. And that's what's keeping me going right now. And that's why I'm able to come out here and speak to everybody.
And we're going to have his Aunt Linda say a word about that, because she talked about this pandemic going on and people still coming out. This is his Aunt Linda.
I didn't want to say anything because I thought my brother and my sister have already said enough. But what I will say, a half-truth is a whole lie. And the fact that we have body cameras, we're able to see the truth. And we still haven't seen all the truth because the rest of the cameras have not been released.
Exactly.
So we don't know the full story. We're only hearing half the story. But there was a question that was just asked about, did they reach out about condolences? We don't need condolences. This is traumatic. But they haven't reached out to say, do you need some medical attention? Because psychologically, this is damaging to us. We don't have a vaccine to fix what is going on in Black America right now. We don't have anything. We're having this story right here. We have all of you here. We keep gathering you here. You should be tired. You should be tired that you have to report this story about Black and brown bodies. Because if you don't do something about our children, eventually it does come to yours.
Yes.
You have 22-year-olds on your couch.
Yes.
You have people crashing on your couch all the time. He didn't have to die like he did. He really didn't. And if you just think about it for a moment, and if you pull away their Minneapolis police uniforms, and if it was just individuals coming in, you would know that he was right. So don't just excuse it because they're police officers. Do not continue to excuse the behavior of police officers. Because I'm going to tell you something. If you are negligent, and my nephew, it says that he died from a homicide. Yes. That's a negligent homicide. Somebody has to be accountable for that homicide.
Okay.
You have these attorneys here, and if they're negligent, they will be disbarred.
Yes.
You have doctors who are negligent, and they will no longer be able to practice. You have dentists. There's every profession that will not allow you to practice when you are negligent. So we're simply saying that the fact that our nephew, their first cousins, is gone,
somebody has to be held accountable. It's not just enough for the law to be passed. He has to be held accountable for the blood of my nephew, because my nephew should be here right now.
Yes.
And this, as my sister said, this is what we call righteous anger.
Amen.
And we thank God for the fact that we have the twins behind us, grace and mercy.
Amen.
And just so you know, God will take care of all of this. So we're asking the police to do it, because we're not getting rest. Amir didn't get rest, and neither will anybody else until this is taken care of.
Okay, and we have the young people here who led the youth movement yesterday. I definitely want us to acknowledge them. Are they still here? Hey, young people, do you all want to say a quick word before we end?
Yeah, so we've had Leah? No, Leah.
Okay.
Leah?
Yeah, okay, you going Okay. Where's that young princess who helped lead the movement that was captured all across America of all the students?
Just give her a second.
No, my friend Aaliyah, who's the founder.
Aaliyah, well, give her credit and
Okay, cool.
talk for her.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jerome Treadwell. I'm the executive director of Minnesota Teen Activists. The other day, on Tuesday, we mobilized students from all across the state of Minnesota, about 2,000 plus, to come and stand in solidarity. Those folks from all over, black, brown, indigenous, white, all folks stand in solidarity with Amir Locke. Our message was protect young black lives. At the top of that it said, we are human, we deserve to live, and we have hopes and dreams. And those are our three pivotal messages that we want to portray to them. As well as that, we are also saying that we need to ban no-knock warrants. I've been working with the National NAACP as the youth president in leadership for the national branch to also ban no-knock warrants, not only in the state of Minnesota, but all across the nation. So as youth activists, we're saying that we're not going to wait on anybody. We're saying that we're not going to let the past inflict upon us, and we're going to stand up as a generation so that our children, that our friends and our peers can have a legacy upon them, which they can no longer be suppressed by white supremacy, no longer be oppressed by the systems, especially in the state of Minnesota, that prohibit us, and in the words of Langston Hughes, defer our dreams from happening.
Wow.
Yes.
Y'all give it up for our young people. This is our future.
We have one question for the family. We've been getting reach out to organizers all across the nation asking, consent, can they do protests and whatnot, and what does that look like for the family? So can you just share
Let's do that
some of your thoughts?
in private.
Okay, thank you.
Organize. We have one more person to address. I think we got most of the questions.
And before we introduce you, John, there was one point that Attorney Crump and I did want to make today. We are standing in St. Paul. And while we've been focused on Minneapolis, let's not forget, this started with a St. Paul investigation. And when the city of Minneapolis insisted on having a no-knock after the city of St. Paul did not believe it was necessary, where was the leadership in St. Paul to say no? The execution of Amir Locke is not just a Minneapolis problem. The city of St. Paul has blood on its hands too. And with that, for our last speaker, I'd like to introduce Jonathan McClelland, whose organization, the Minnesota Justice Coalition, has been a leader in introducing no-knock legislation.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jonathan McClellan. I'm president of the Minnesota Justice Coalition. We are part of a collection of organizations that work with the families and community to draft and advance legislation and other policy initiatives here at the Capitol in St. Paul and in Washington, D.C. I first and foremost want to acknowledge these families and their courage and pain that they have to endure and continue to endure every time the scab is ripped off when another person is killed by police violence. I want to offer my condolences to the family of Amir Locke, who should not have to be here. Amir Locke is but another name that will be added to the list of names of those executed by a ruthless Minneapolis Police Department that has shown the world that they are out of control and out of touch and don't care about the community or the U.S. Department investigation into the patterns of conduct that leaves a wake of black and brown bodies filled with lead pumped into them by killer cops. And if it's not lead, it's a knee in our necks, all of which deprive us of life. And then we have a system that has historically justified covering up and tried to spin a narrative that is often false and intentionally misleading, ultimately gagging and handcuffing justice itself. Last session, when we testified on the no-knock legislation and tried to prevent it from being watered down, the opponents commented that what happened to Breonna Taylor, however tragic, did not happen in Minnesota. And as a result, we got a watered-down version, and now we're here with the tragic death of Amir Locke, and that happened in Minnesota. We are trying to change the system, and we have put forward legislation that is thoughtful, family and community informed, would save lives, and provide the community with transparency, accountability, and justice for the victims. The time for action was yesterday. How many bodies does it take? How much blood do we have to bleed for our voices to be heard, for action that will protect and value human life? Some of the legislation we proposed includes removing the statute of limitation on wrongful death, allowing families and their legal representatives to view the body camera footage within 48 hours upon request after a critical incident, removing qualified immunity as a defense when law enforcement violates the law, eliminating the taxpayer portion of pensions when officer commits a felony under the color of law while in uniform, and ending all no-knock warrants, and the latest bill providing checks and balances around how law enforcement obtains and executes search warrants. We also have advocated for the passage of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act in Congress that is stalled in the Senate. We are tired of false promises and lip service from politicians who can't deliver or try to make political calculations over protecting and then serving the people. I would like to thank Minnesota Representative Athena Hollins for leading the charge on no-knock warrants here in the House, and Senator Omar Fattah in the Senate. And to the rest of the Minnesota legislators who are on the fence or fail to see our humanity, you are on a sinking ship. The life rafts will not be out long. You can get on board with justice and help heal our shared communities, or you can drown in your ignorance. These issues are not partisan issues, they're Minnesotan issues, and the ship of justice is setting sail. And we are not turning back because our future, the future of our children, and the future of our state depend on it. The justice ship is big, and you are welcome. So let's get to work. We hold up the families who have lost so much, and we demand justice. Make no mistake, what's going on now is not a moment, it's a movement. And we intend to see it through. Thank you.
The last thing we'll say, if people ask why the parents of Amir Locke and these families came here today, it is real simple. Pass the Amir Locke law now. 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 Amir Locke law now. Pass the Amir Locke law now. Pass the Amir Locke law now. Pass the Amir Locke law now. And hopefully, we won't have any more Amir Locks in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.